The lawyers know who really mattered to her. You're just embarrassing yourself. The chapel buzzed like a hive ready to sting. I felt the weight of their judgment, the same suffocating pressure from the final years of our marriage when Laura's success had made me feel small. But this time, I had nothing left to lose. I'm not here to cause trouble, I said, my voice steady, despite the heat rising in my cheeks. I loved your mother, Ethan. That's something you can't erase, no matter how much you hate me. Hate you. Ethan's voice rose, cracking with fury. You don't get to claim love after you abandoned us. Mom built an empire while you were punching a time clock, whining about her ambition. You were nothing but a burden. He turned to the crowd, his arms wide, a prosecutor addressing a jury. This is Tom Harper, my father, who spent 22 years dragging my mother down. While she was creating jobs, building a legacy, he was content to play the victim, living off her scraps. The crowd leaned in their murmurs, growing louder. A man in a pinstripe suit nodded approvingly. A woman whispered, after what he put her through. I saw faces I'd once called friends, neighbors from our Crestwood days, but none met my eyes. Ethan's words landed like physical blows, not because they were entirely true, but because they carried enough truth to cut deep. I had struggled with Laura's success. I had felt inadequate, but I'd never stopped loving her. Claire's voice sliced through the tension, cold and deliberate. You should go, Tom. We've already spoken to the estate lawyers. Laura's wishes are clear, and trust me, they don't include you. She paused, her lips curving into a smirk. When she was sick, we made sure she knew who was really loyal, who deserved her empire. The implication hung in the air like smoke from a fire, something dark, something planned. My stomach twisted. Had they pressured Laura in her final days, manipulated her when she was vulnerable? The thought was a violation, a betrayal of everything she'd stood for, and it lit a fire in my chest. Dustin Ethan? I corrected myself, my voice harder than I intended. You don't get to decide who grieves her. I'm staying. Claire laughed, a sharp mocking sound that turned heads. Grieve. You're here for a payout, Tom. Don't pretend otherwise. Laura was too smart to fall for your act again. She turned to Ethan, her hand brushing his arm, a gesture that felt too intimate, too conspiratorial. Let's not waste any more time on him. He'll see soon enough he's got no place here. Ethan nodded, his eyes blazing with contempt. You're not family anymore, Dad. Divorce means you're out. Go back to your sad little apartment and your broken sprinklers. He gestured toward me like swatting a fly, then addressed the crowd again. I apologize for this disruption. My mother deserved better than to have her memory tainted by someone who never understood her. The chapel pulsed with tension, the air thick with anticipation. Someone coughed. A phone buzzed against wood. I stood my ground, my hands clenched at my sides. I'm not here for your approval, Ethan, I said quietly, my voice carrying through the silence. I'm here because once, a long time ago, your mother and I made promises to each other. And those promises still mean something to me. For a moment, Ethan's confidence flickered, his eyes narrowing, as if he hadn't expected resistance. Claire's smile faltered, her fingers tightening on her purse. The crowd was silent, now caught between curiosity and discomfort. The service will begin in 5 minutes, a voice announced from the front, the funeral director trying to restore order. Ethan shot me one final look of disgust before striding to the front pew, Claire at his side like a shadow. I sank back into the pew, my heart pounding. The whispers resumed sharper now. poor Ethan having to deal with this. What kind of man shows up after all these years? But I stayed through the eulogy that painted Laura as a visionary who'd conquered every obstacle through the tributes from colleagues who spoke of her innovation and drive. The music swelled triumphant hymns that celebrated her victories, but all I could hear was Claire's voice. We made sure she knew who was really loyal. What had they done to her? What had they taken from the woman who'd once fought for fairness in a snowy diner? As the service ended, people filed past, offering condolences to Ethan while ignoring me. I waited until the chapel emptied my hands folded in my lap, the weight of their judgment settling over me like a heavy coat. I was reaching for my jacket when a voice stopped me. Mr. Harper. Robert Ellis approached, his expensive suit impeccable, a leather briefcase in hand. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 50, with sharp eyes, behind wire-rimmed glasses, and the calm authority of someone used to navigating wealthy people's dramas. Robert Ellis Carter and Ellis Associates. Could I have a word? We need to discuss Laura's estate. Ethan appeared at my shoulder, his expression shifting from practiced grief to sharp interest. Finally, he said, glancing at Claire, who'd joined us, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Let's get to the business side of things. Robert's gaze moved between us, his face unreadable. I'd like both of you and Ms. Donovan, if she insists, to come to my office for the reading of the will. Mr. Harper is specifically named, and his presence is required. Ethan's eyebrows shot up. Required he's not. He gestured at me, his voice thick with disbelief. Claire's smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of unease. By law, Robert set his tone, leaving no room for argument. Mr. Harper must be there. I felt a jolt of surprise. Named in the will. It seemed impossible, but Robert's steady gaze told me this was no mistake. Claire's eyes narrowed, her fingers tightening on her purse, as if she could crush whatever was coming. Ethan's face darkened, his earlier confidence cracking like thin ice. Something was wrong in their perfect plan, and for the first time that day, I felt a spark of hope that Laura's legacy might hold more than their betrayal. The walk to Robert Ellis's office felt like a march to judgment, the 3 blocks through downtown Rock Springs, heavy with the weight of what was coming. The restored Victorian house stood tall, its dark wood and polished brass speaking of success, earned and guarded. Inside the office smelled of leather and old book certificates lining the walls like trophies of battles won. Afternoon light slanted through tall windows, catching dust motes that danced like secrets waiting to spill. Robert gestured to 2 leather chairs in front of his mahogany desk. Ethan claimed the one closest to him, his posture radiating confidence, while Claire stood behind her arms, crossed, her eyes sharp as a predator's. I took the chair to the side, feeling like an afterthought in my own story. Robert settled behind his desk, opening a thick file with the precision of a surgeon. Before we begin, he said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, I want to express my condolences. Laura was not just a client, but a friend. Her loss is profound. His voice carried the measured cadence of someone who delivered life-altering news before. Ethan nodded solemnly. His hands clasped, but I could see the anticipation in his tightened jaw. Claire's lips curved slightly as if she already knew the outcome. I stayed silent, unsure what role I played in this ritual, my presence feeling more like a formality than a necessity. Robert lifted a document bound in blue, his glasses catching the light. This is the last will and testament of Laura Catherine Mitchell, executed on April 10, 2024, and properly witnessed per Wyoming state law. It supersedes all previous wills. He paused, his eyes flicking between us. Laura was of sound mind and under no undue influence when these documents were prepared. Ethan leaned forward, his fingers drumming lightly on the armrest. Claire's smile widened, a silent signal of victory. Robert turned to the second page, his voice steady. I hereby make the following specific bequests. To my son, Ethan James Mitchell. I leave the family home at 922 Crestwood Avenue, including all furnishings, artwork, and personal property therein. Ethan's face broke into a satisfied grin. The Crestwood house was a sprawling estate worth at least $1 million, with mountain views and rooms built for entertaining. A solid start to his inheritance. Additionally, Robert continued, I bequeath to Ethan the sum of $500,000 to be transferred from my primary investment account within 60 days of probate. The grin flickered. Ethan's eyes narrowed, his fingers stilling. $500,000 was significant, but Laura's empire, Mitchell Consulting Solutions, a behemoth of real estate and investments, was worth tens of millions. Where was the rest? Claire's smile faltered, her arms uncrossing as she stepped closer to the desk. That's generous, Ethan said, his voice tight. But what about Mom's company? Her investments. Robert's expression remained neutral, a mask of professionalism. I'm continuing with the bequests, Ethan. Please let me finish. He turned the page, his glasses glinting. The bequest to Ethan includes the following condition. The inheritance is contingent upon his resignation from Mitchell Consulting Solutions within 2 years of this will's execution, or until the company is sold or dissolved. Ethan's face drained of color. Resignation. His voice cracked a mix of disbelief and anger. What do you mean sold? Mom would never let the company go. It was her life's work. Claire's hand gripped Ethan's shoulder, her nails digging in her eyes, darting to Robert with a flicker of panic. Robert removed his glasses, cleaning them with deliberate care, letting the silence stretch. I'm reading Laura's words as written. There are additional provisions regarding her remaining assets. He lifted the next page, his tone taking on a weight that made my stomach tighten. To my former husband, Tom Michael Harper, I bequeath the sum of $48, $5 million to be transferred from my primary investment accounts and securities portfolio. The words exploded into the room like shrapnel shredding the air. My mouth fell open, a reflex I couldn't control. $48.5 million. The number was so vast, it felt like a fever dream, belonging to a world of private jets and penthouses, not a retired power plant worker in a second-hand suit. There's a mistake. I stammered, my voice sounding foreign. Did you say 48 million, 48.5 million? Robert corrected, his tone. Calm, but his eyes watchful, like he was bracing for chaos. Additionally, to Tom Harper, I transfer controlling interest in Mitchell Consulting Solutions, including all subsidiary companies, real estate holdings, and business assets, comprising 75% ownership, an appointment as chairman of the board. The room tilted, the laws of reality bending under the weight of the impossible. Controlling interest in Laura's empire. The company that had consumed our marriage, the juggernaut I'd watched from the sidelines, was mine. I couldn't breathe, my hands gripping the chair, as if it might anchor me to sanity. Ethan shot to his feet, his chair slamming against the wall with a crack that echoed like a gunshot. This is impossible, he shouted. His face flushed red. She wouldn't do this. Claire's composure shattered, her voice rising to a shriek. This is fraud. He manipulated her. She pointed at me, her finger trembling with rage. You got to her when she was sick, didn't you? When she was too weak to think straight. Her accusation was a knife twisting deeper with every word. I shook my head, still reeling. I haven't spoken to Laura in 15 years, I said weakly. I didn't know she was sick. Liar. Ethan roared, his voice shaking the walls. People don't give away $48 million to their ex-husband for no reason. He whirled to Robert. I want every document examined. Mental evaluations, contacts, everything. Robert's voice cut through the hysteria, firm and unyielding. I assure you, Mr. Mitchell Laura was of sound mind. She underwent a thorough mental competency evaluation to prevent any challenges to this will's validity. He set the document down, his gaze steady. But there's more you need to hear. Claire's eyes widened, a flicker of fear breaking through her rage. More, she snapped. What else could there be? Robert reached for a manila envelope, Laura's familiar handwriting scrawled across it. Personal message. Laura left specific instructions to share this after the bequests were read, he said, his tone softening. It addresses both of you and Ms. Donovan. He opened the envelope, extracting cream-colored stationery, and began to read in a voice that seemed to carry Laura's presence into the room. My dearest Tom, he began, if you're hearing this, I'm gone, and you're probably sitting in Robert's office, wondering if the world's lost its mind. I can see your face, that look you got when I'd rearranged the furniture without warning. Confused, but too kind to complain. I felt a ghost of a smile tug at my lips, her words pulling me back to our old kitchen table, scarred and warm. I know this inheritance feels like a mistake, Tom, but it's not. You deserve every penny, and I'm going to tell you why. Ethan's hands clenched, his knuckles white. Claire's face was a mask of barely contained fury, her breath shallow. Robert continued, Ethan, my brilliant, beautiful boy, you're furious right now thinking Tom manipulated me. But you're not ready for this legacy. Not yet. You've lived in the shadow of my success, accepting its rewards without understanding its weight. And worse, you've let Claire Donovan lead you down a path I never wanted for you. Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock. Claire's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Robert's voice grew heavier. Claire, you thought you could control my empire by controlling my son. You siphoned millions from my company falsified records and pressured me to change my will when I was at my weakest. You and Ethan tried to force me to sign a fraudulent document, but I saw through you. I rewrote this will in secret with Robert's help to protect what I built from your greed. The room froze, the air thick with the weight of her accusation. Claire's face went white, then red, her hands shaking. That's a lie, she screamed, slamming her palm on the desk, sending paper scattering. She was delirious. She didn't know what she was signing. Robert's gaze was steel. Laura was lucid and determined. She provided evidence of your embezzlement, bank records, emails, forged contracts. The board has already been notified, Miss Donovan. An investigation is underway. Ethan turned to Claire, his voice trembling. You said it was clean. You said Mom agreed to everything. His betrayal was raw, a wound opening in real time. Claire's eyes darted to the door, like a trapped animal searching for escape. I found my voice hoarse and unsteady. Why Laura? Why me? Robert returned to the letter, his voice gentle but firm. Tom, I never stopped loving you. Not during our fights, not during the divorce, not in these 15 years of silence. I was angry when you couldn't share my ambition, but I was angrier at myself for choosing it over our marriage. You begged me to find balance, to remember what mattered. I was too proud to listen. You taught me integrity, the kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself by hurting others. I forgot that lesson when I let Claire into our lives, when I let her turn Ethan against you. Tears burned my eyes. hot and unexpected, as Laura's words rebuilt something I thought was broken forever, the belief that I'd mattered to her. Ethan, the letter continued. You've spent 15 years hating a good man for crimes he didn't commit. Claire fed that anger, used it to blind you. You're getting enough to live well to find who you are without my wealth's shadow. Learn to build something yourself. Learn to value people over profit. Learn to forgive your father for being human. Ethan made a choked sound, his face crumpling. Whether from rage or grief, I couldn't tell. Claire's voice rose again, shrill and desperate. This is insane. She was sick, coerced. I'll sue for every cent. Robert folded the letter with care, his voice cutting through her outburst. Laura anticipated challenges. Her evidence against you, Ms. Donovan, is ironclad. The board will pursue criminal charges for embezzlement and attempted fraud. He turned to me, sliding the envelope across the desk. This is yours, Tom. The original letter, as she wished. I took it, my hands trembling, holding the last piece of Laura like a lifeline. Ethan stared at the floor, his world collapsing under the weight of his mother's truth. Claire's face twisted, her mask of confidence gone, revealing the greed beneath. The office pulsed with the aftermath of Laura's words, a justice sharper than any courtroom could deliver. The silence in Robert Ellis's office was deafening, Laura's letter lying between us like a verdict carved in stone. Claire Donovan stood frozen, her face a twisted mask of rage and fear, her earlier arrogance shattered by the truth of her betrayal. Ethan slumped in his chair, staring at the floor, his hands trembling, as if the empire he'd expected to inherit had crumbled to dust. I clutched Laura's letter against my chest. Its weight, both a burden and a lifeline, her words echoing. You taught me integrity, Tom. You deserve every penny. Claire broke the silence first, her voice shrill but brittle. This isn't over, she hissed, snatching her purse from the desk. I'll fight this mental incapacity fraud, anything. You can't take everything I've built. Her eyes blazed at me, but the fire was fading, replaced by desperation. Robert's voice was calm, unyielding. Ms. Donovan, the board has your financial records. Embezzlement charges are being prepared. I suggest you speak to your own lawyer. Claire's gaze darted to the door, her heels clicking as she fled her shadow, vanishing like smoke in the wind. Ethan looked up, his face a storm of grief and anger. I'll contest it, he muttered, but his voice lacked conviction, cracked by the weight of his mother's words. She was wrong about me, about you. He pointed at me, his finger shaking, but the accusation felt hollow, a child's defiance against an unchangeable truth. I stood slowly, meeting his eyes. Ethan, your mother didn't do this to hurt you. She gave you a chance to find yourself, to step out from Claire's shadow. Don't let her drag you down with her. For a moment, I saw the boy. He'd been the one who'd laughed at my terrible fishing stories. But his face hardened, and he grabbed his coat, storming out without a word. The door's soft click echoed like a final goodbye. Robert gathered the papers on his desk, the rustle pulling me back to reality. There's paperwork to sign, accounts, to transfer board meetings, to schedule, he said. The company's management team is strong. They'll guide you as chairman. I nodded, still dazed, the magnitude of $48.5 million and an empire under my name sinking in like a tide. Did she really love me, Robert? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. After everything, he smiled, a rare warmth breaking through his professional mask. Tom, every time we met, Laura talked about you, not the divorce, but the man who showed her success without character is just expensive failure. She believed in you. I walked out into the Wyoming afternoon, the sun warmer than it had any right to be, the air cleaner, like a promise reborn. Standing before the glass tower of Mitchell Consulting Solutions, I saw my reflection, not the failure Ethan had branded me, but a man trusted with Laura's legacy. I'd use it to build something good, a foundation for kids like the one Ethan used, to be a way to honor the woman who'd loved me despite my flaws. Justice wasn't revenge or vindication. It was proving Laura right, proving that love and integrity outlast greed. As I held her letter, it felt like her hand in mine again, guiding me toward a future I'd never dared imagine. If you loved this story, please like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Click the box on the left for the next story. Thank you for watching.